Hello and Happy New Year. This is Zoe. And if you're like many others, maybe this new year doesn't feel so happy and a bit more crappy. There's a distinct sense of malaise. If that's you, if you've got more crappy than happy going on, then this episode is for you. And even if you're slightly happy and want to be happier, this episode is also for you. Let's do it.
Welcome to the Zoe Routh Leadership Podcast, where we share all things people stuff in leadership. Learn from leaders who have done the hard yards and learn from experience. Hear from expert authors about the latest insights from culture to strategy and messy people dynamics. Get tips and insights from multiple award-winning author and leadership expert herself, Zoe Routh. Now, on with the show.
Malaise. That's definitely the word that came to mind when I was thinking, what am I going to talk about for this first solo-sode of the year? How do we get the year started off? You know, that sense of newness that comes with a new year, to be frank, just hasn't been there this time. I usually get really excited for the new year, that sense of renewal, exciting new projects ahead, a whole year fresh and unknown, waiting to be discovered and created. That energy has not been there. And why should it be? Look at what we're facing. And so this idea of malaise has sort of stayed with me. And I sort of started making notes for this episode going, malaise, malaise. It's a wonderful French word. And the literal translation of the two words that make it up, mal and aise. Mal is bad. Aise is actually happiness, ease, or contentment. So you got bad easiness or bad happiness. I think it's a beautiful word. It sort of sums up the general sense of discontent that I'm experiencing and that many others are experiencing. And I was thinking about the leaders that I work with and all that they're confronting, and you too. And with this Omicron thing raging and rampaging around the planet, so many people are furloughed. They have either got COVID or isolated because they're a close contact, or want to stay isolated because they don't want to get it. And this is leading to all sorts of problems as we've been experiencing. You might be shorthanded at work as a result of this, and that just puts more pressure on those left standing to pick up the pieces and continue on. Or maybe you can't offer your services or have to close your business because you can't get the staff there because they're furloughed. Or as we've seen in the supermarkets, we went shopping early the other day to miss the crowds, obviously, and the shelves were devoid. It was like people had rampaged through there and shopped everything out. But it wasn't because of panic buying. It was because a lot of the truck drivers are furloughed because of COVID, and the deliveries just aren't happening. So this shortage of supply has been happening in other sectors quite a lot for the last 6 months or so, notably in the construction industry and so forth. It's starting to pop up everywhere. And if you were amongst the hundreds of people who tried to get on an airplane to go somewhere else for the holidays but had their flights canceled because staff were furloughed, then you know this pain all too well. It's not great, is it? All this uncertainty, all this worry is kind of just stewing on our nerves. And it's been going on for over 2 years now. And I think there's a lot of questions that are percolating in the back of people's minds, which are, how long is this going to last? First, we had no vaccine. Now we have a vaccine. Now we need to get boosters. And that's not enough to keep Omicron at Omicron? Yeah, I think that's right. Omicron, no N in there, at bay. So how long is this thing going to last? Will I get it? If I get it, how long will I be laid low? Will I survive it? And then the other big question is, will this pandemic get worse? What if there's another damn variant and it gets worse and it avoids all the vaccines? And it's very easy, as you've started to tell, to start catastrophizing and to go into chaos and despair. Malaise taken to its extreme. So we don't want to go there. That's exactly what we don't want to do as leaders. We need to start to overcome all this malaise, all this despair, all this frustration. How do we do that? How do we do that? Well, basically, we need to know, first of all, that we're experiencing a little bit of malaise. And the computer defines it as a general feeling of discomfort, illness, or unease whose exact cause is difficult to identify. Well, I think we know what the cause is really, but it may not be a specific thing. It might be a more of extended circumstances and that feeling of just being a little bit out of control, not being able to plan anything. Yeah, okay. So we know the source of malaise, and if you're experiencing malaise, that's a good starting point. So on the show today, I want to run us through some suggestions how to get out of malaise and back on the front foot and feeling proactive and positive. Sound good? I hope so. So the first step, my first suggestion is to shrink your world. Shrink your world. What do I mean by that? Well, the big picture can feel really overwhelming. It can feel like we're just out of control with so many unknowns. It can just trigger that malaise almost immediately. So shrink your world. Focus to what is right in front of you. So shrink your world down to, what do I have control over? What you have control over are where you focus, the small decisions of your day, like what will I wear today? What will I eat today? What will I do today? Those are micro decisions that you have control over. So that's a good starting point, is to get that sense of I'm in control of my little universe and make it very small universe. Then you can ask a positive, affirming question, which is, what is going right? What is going right in my world? And there's probably a lot more than you may first take notice of if you're stuck in malaise. And the next one is shifting from what is going right to what are you grateful for? What are you grateful for? And gratitude has been a known trigger to getting into the state of flow, and it's sort of a gateway emotion. So really focusing on what's going right and what am I grateful for can actually help shift your state significantly. So that's step one, shrink your world. Step two, take stock. What are your resources? And I think this is a really useful one. So focus externally, first of all. So your resources might be money, people, belongings, the stuff around you. What have you got around you that you can access or use in now or in a time of crisis? Then you can also just think about, what are your resources internally? What are your skills? What's your knowledge? What's your attitude? And that's actually a bigger source of wealth than the material things. It has a wealth of potential that can be redirected if required. Armed with a state of knowledge of what your resources are physically and emotionally and internally, then you can start to feel a little bit stronger about what's happening to you. Step number 3 is get clear. Get clear. What do you actually want? And typically when I ask, what do you want? We default to what are the externals that we want? What are the external things that we want to have in our world? I would suggest instead focusing on, what kind of person do you want to be? When I was thinking about this for myself, I want to be the kind of person who is kind, the kind of person who is resourceful, and the kind of person who is centered. Not surprising, since my first book was Composure, How Centered Leaders Make the Biggest Impact. And why do we write books? So we can learn the lessons ourselves, of course. So that's what I want. I want to be a kind, resourceful, centered human. What do you want to be? The next question around this is, how do you want to experience your life? What is the predominant feeling you want to have? I think all of us have a default feeling that is sort of our general vibration or experience or mood that we have. Some people are generally more happy than others, and you know them. They're upbeat and optimistic no matter what's going on. And it doesn't mean that they're Pollyanna and blind to what's going on. It's just that's their default. And you know others who are, their default is grumpiness. We can actually recalibrate if we get clear on the emotion that we want to experience. And it means practicing that emotion more regularly and being intentional about it. And the emotions, when I thought about it in terms of how I want to experience my life and my year ahead in particular, were wonder and joy. Wonder and joy. Why wonder? Because wonder leaves us open to possibilities. It gets us curious. It gets us grateful. It gets us into this realm of magic. And this made me actually rethink my word of the year. So I'd originally chosen magnetize or magneto as my theme for 2022. And in the reflection of how do I want to experience the world, I've shifted it now to magician. Magician, because wonder and joy are part of the magic of life. And I think I would love to have a bit more magic in my life. That sense of discovery and excitement is really the default emotion that I want. So my theme word, dun, 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 new theme word for the year is magician. And that just feels way more fun than magnetize, which, to be honest, was supposed to feel easy, really felt like a little bit of effort. But magician, that just sounds way more fun. So step number 3 was get clear. Step number 4 is cultivate your energy. How we show up matters. We want to be resonant. We want to be like a temple gong, reverberate. We want to be sonorous. We want to have this deep, energetic, profound impact on the people around us that is positive. Ooh, doesn't that feel good? I just think of temple gong, and it just kind of moves through your body. And when we focus on cultivating our energy by eating well, exercising, meditating, having good sleep, stretching, looking after our body, looking after our emotional well-being, thinking of ourselves as an energetic source that has a powerful effect on others is critically important as leaders. So I think when we cultivate our energy deliberately, it will have a huge impact on not only our own personal world, but those around us. So step number 5 is focus on your team. Focus on your team. I love this quote from Napoleon Bonaparte. He said, "Leaders are dealers in hope." And I think nothing has been more significant than this idea now. Now that idea has really come. If we need any emotion in 2022, it's hope. And because this pervasiveness of malaise will be affecting not only us, but the people that we work with. So what we do for ourselves, we must do for others. So your task after listening to this podcast episode is to do the exercises and then share them with your team. I've written out the steps for you so that if you want a quick reference, you can check the show notes and just share those steps with your team, or share this entire episode with them so they can listen in for themselves. So take your team through this. Encourage them to do this kind of reflection. If it's working for you, share it. And this way, we will help to cultivate a more positive focus around us. I think more than ever this year, leaders will need to be facilitators. We will need to have culture and morale at the forefront of everything we do with our team. We will need to be steadfast in our concern and caretaking of morale and culture in our teams, because it will be easy to slip. More uncertainty, more unknowns, more bad news will always drag us backwards. So we will need to facilitate our teams to make sure that we can encourage a positive focus moving forward. And if that's new for you, that's going to be hard. It's not easy if you're a very task-oriented leader to all of a sudden to have conversations with your team about how are you feeling? What's going right for you? It's going to feel weird, awkward, and not natural. Do it anyway. And explain to your team why you're doing it. Is that you want to be helpful to them in terms of cultivating their own positive focus. And it's a way for you guys to do it collectively and to build on the energy that you each bring to the table. A new feature in the podcast we're going to do this year is team tip. So a tip that you can use as a leader with your team. And if I don't mention it in the podcast episode itself, because a few of the episodes we pre-recorded before Christmas, and we didn't have team tip as a new thing at that point, we will include it in the show notes. So you will have the team tip in terms of what you can use as a leader with your team in the show notes if it's not mentioned on the interview. So the team tip for this episode is take your team through these 5 steps. They are listed in the show notes. And I also am resharing the New Year's reflection and planning tool, which I create every year. And last year was no exception, and it came out in the last week of December. So I will repost that in the show notes for you. The links will be there. It's a handout to help you reflect on the year that has gone and what you want from the year ahead. So first do the 5 questions to help get your focus and energy and positivity all lined up. And then you can take the reflection tool and dig deeper with a positive mindset and energy already established and work through what else you want to create in greater detail for the year coming up. coming up, speaking of things coming up, are upcoming events. You can find all of my events for the year because we are so organized this year. Oh my goodness. They are all listed at zoerouth.com/events. There's a heap of virtual ones as well as face-to-face, COVID pending, of course, in Canberra. So there's everything from you individually as a leader to benefit from, everything from difficult conversations, developing high-performing teams, as well as an insight into Amplifiers, which is our advanced leadership training and community for CEOs and managing directors. So all that's up there. And the next event that's coming up is Friday, February 4th. It is a live event, caveat, in Canberra, and it's called Ignite, Reset Strategy with Your Team. And what we want to do there is review what is our current strategy, look at the current trends affecting our particular sector, i.e. COVID is an obvious one, and do a couple of scenarios to anticipate what could happen and what we need to anticipate. What do we need to adjust in our strategy? That's the first half of the day. The second half of the day will be about culture alignment and to do a checklist about how our culture is going. Is it lining up with what we need in order to deliver this strategy? And what habits and rituals do we need to put in place as a team to deliver on that? So it's an excellent workshop for you and your executive team to come along to. I've got enough room for 4 teams. I've got 1 place booked already. So there's 3 more teams at the time of this recording, which is Monday, 10th of January, available. So if that sounds like it'd be something awesome to kickstart your year off with your team and you're in Canberra and you want to sign up, go for it. If we can't do it in person, we will do it virtually. And that's what's coming up. Lastly, this whole show is brought to you by Amplifiers, as mentioned, which is my community of advanced leaders who are undertaking advanced leadership training and are focused on implementing brand new ideas to take their results and impact to the next level. I would love for you to be part of the community if that sounds exciting to you. We have a virtual group as well as a local group in Canberra. And our next immersion, our one-day gathering, is virtually on 10th of February and in Canberra on the 11th of February. So if you've been humming and hawing about the program, just click on my website, zoerouth.com, click under programs. You'll find all the details for Amplifiers right there. And if you want to talk to me about the program and see if it's right for you and to answer all your questions, just send me an email, zoe@zoerouth.com. Would love to chat. All right, now on the show coming up, oh my goodness, we've got some really wonderful interviews coming up. Our theme at the moment is still high-performing teams. That theme finishes up at the beginning of February. And we've got an international slew of interviewees. We've got Eduardo Bondazen. He's Italian. He's an expert in creativity and trust. And that was a fun gritty interview. We've got Keith Renenson, who is a character from America, an adventurist, and he's a delightful adventurer and speaker, a skier like me, and we focus on tenacity. And then we've got from the UK, Hedda Bird, and her interview is all about managing performance. Her book is really excellent. I ordered it immediately after that interview. So you should enjoy all those episodes coming up on high-performing teams. So there you have it. Hopefully we've gone from malaise to magic. That's what I wish for you. In the meantime, live well, lead well.
You've been listening to the Zoe Routh Leadership Podcast with leadership expert Zoe Routh. For more about people stuff and to contact Zoe, go to zoerouth.com.